Hey guys, Nick from Arch City Poker, archcityplo.com, and today we're going to talk about how to play Ace Queen, pretty much in general, pre-flop. I'll talk about some post-flop stuff, but just like the last video with Pocket Jacks, Ace Queen seems to get a bad rap. It's quite the strong hand pre-flop, and it makes for some strong hands post-flop when you do connect. And when you don't connect, you have more showdown value than what you think, and we'll get into that in a little bit here. But pre-flop, in general, I think it really depends on the population that you play against, and if you do have specific reads on a player, it depends on the player. And I'm referring to their opening range, their raising range, essentially, when you're holding ace-queen. If you do face a raise and you're holding ace-queen, if it is a player that you feel is very tight, or it's a player that you don't know a lot about, but you notice that they split their ranges pre-flop, meaning that they will have a limping range, they'll do a lot of limping, a lot of over-limping, but then they'll rarely to occasionally raise. I do not try to attack those players with 3-bets with ace-queen. I think it's a good combo to flat with because generally you will very often fold out ace-jack. You'll fold out king-queen. Those are the hands you want to keep in. You don't want to only get action from ace-queen or better, or even ace-king, and then essentially like pocket tens or better, because that puts us in a spot where we're flipping or far behind. Now, if you are facing a range that you feel is a little more reasonable, a little wider, this could perhaps just be a looser player in general, or a player that is not splitting his range pre-flop, he's essentially just raising or folding, then you can implement some more 3-betting. And I would err on the side of 3-betting ace-queen suited a little more often than ace-queen offsuit. I like to save ace-queen offsuit for my cold calling range. It strengthens that range a little bit. It also matters depending on your position. I think if you're out of position, facing a looser range or a late position opening range, you want to probably 3-bet a little bit more often than not. You take the initiative, you lower the stack to pot ratio, which is good for you in out of position usually, just because you do take away some of the positional advantage that the player in position has. When the stack to pot ratio is higher, they have more room to get creative. If they're capable of that, they're able to apply more pressure post-flop being in position. And you get a good sense of what their range looks like. You narrow their range, you therefore have the range advantage when they often don't 4-bet you. So I think it is a good, it's good to go ahead and usually 3-bet from out of position facing, again, it either needs to be a late position raising range, or it needs to be against a player that you know is opening pretty wide pre-flop. If you're still facing a very nitty raising range, though, then I probably would just err on the side of calling. Now, post-flop, if you flop top pair, either the ace or the queen, you very likely have the best hand on a lot of like the more static or drier textures. Depending on how many, or depending on how deep you are against your opponent, or if there's multiple opponents, it's going to depend on how much money is left behind, essentially. If the stack to pot ratio is a little lower, meaning there's obviously not that much money left behind, let's say SPR of around like 5 or lower, 4 or lower. If there are more opponents in the hand, if it's a multi-way pot, the SPR needs to be even lower than that. But you can go for 3 streets of value, planning to often stack off on the river if the run out obviously is not one that smacks your opponent's range very hard, and it's not bad for your hand. But if the SPR is really deep, then we might not be able to go for 3 streets of value. We might have to go for 2 streets or 1 street. And depending on the situation, the opponent, that's going to matter as far as whether you, when and where you get 2 streets or 1 street of value. I'm not going to go into that in this video. But just know that, pay attention to how much money is left behind, how many people are in the pot, what type of players are in the pot. That will help you determine how many streets of value you can get with those 1-pair types of hands. Now, let's say your head's up, especially if you are facing a limp caller and you have ace-queen, if the board is, pretty much most textures you're going to be able to c-bet on because you have the range advantage. But believe it or not, you can check back. You can call some bets with just ace-queen. You can check call with some ace-queen. It's going to fit in at the bottom of your range as far as a combo that has some showdown value. You very often have the 2 overcards. You very often are facing a stabbing range that contains hands that are worse than ace-queen. So it's not so much about oh, I hate ace queen because I missed the flop. Yeah, you miss the flop about 2/3 of the time, but it doesn't mean that you have the worst hand every time you miss the flop. So you guys have to have a stronger understanding of showdown value and concepts like range advantage. And I've got videos on that. You should check those out. But those two concepts are very important as far as helping you become more efficient playing ace queen post flop. So I hope this quick video has helped you guys out a little bit. I hope you have a little bit better of a sense of what to do pre-flop with what I suggest. I think that'll help you in the live low stakes 9-handed games. And then post flop, like I said, pay attention to stack sizes, how much money's left, what types of players are in the pot, and don't underestimate your showdown value with ace queen when you do miss a flop. So if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and let me know in the comments section. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Check out archcityplo.com if you're interested in improving your live PLO game. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video.